good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. You know, relationships are very important to me, and it's a huge subject here on Live Your True Life Perspectives because relationships really are the foundation for many of us to have happy life, a joyful life, and then sometimes quite the opposite. And depending on how these relationships are structured and how we deal with it and how we interact with the relationship, but better yet, how we treat the other person and how we treat ourselves, dynamically influence the relationship at hand. You know, I find it interesting with technology and social media and our smartphones in our hand at all times. I found that sometimes that can be distracting. I found that a lot of times with the social media, I love social media too. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter. Okay, the list goes on. But the thing is that I found that a lot of the technology actually takes us away from our relationships. I can't tell you how many countless times I've gone to a restaurant and seen a couple, and they're so sweet, and they look so happy with their phone. They look so happy with their phone, and the husband looks great with his phone, and it seems like neither one of them are communicating. But what if there was technology that could actually help a relationship? What would that look like? What would it look like if you had technology that could actually help with relationships and also create some of that structure and that understanding that many of us are looking for to find that connection, either with the person that we're already in a relationship with, the person we're already married to, or maybe we're single and we're in that thought process of, hey, it's time for me to really figure out me, get me some me, to figure out how I can actually meet somebody that might add joy and happiness in my life. Well, if you're in any one of those spots right now, mentally, physically, emotionally, all three, spiritually, four, if you're there right now, well, this is the show that you need to listen to. You know, I have some friends of mine. They've created this amazing app. They come from some really awesome backgrounds, and I'm going to talk to you about them right now, and they're going to come on the show here on LYTL. Rnold Smith and Michelle Falcone are joining me. They're both the co-creators of the Connection app to discuss how technology is changing relationships in today's modern society. And not only that, but how we can actually begin to embrace this technology to benefit our relationships and use it to our advantage. Rnold has over 20 years of experience as a successful entrepreneur, speaker, writer, and consultant. He's happily married, which is good because, you know, that's the Connection app, and it's supposed to bring us closer together. He has 2 daughters as well. Michelle is a life and business coach, a proud mother, divine feminine leader on a mission to make a difference in this world. And they both currently reside in British Columbia, which is neat, too, which I've never been. You know, it's really great to have you on the show, Rnold and Michelle. How are you doing today?
Oh, we're doing awesome, Ashley, and we're just thrilled to be here with you.
So good, Ashley. Nice to chat with you.
You know, it's amazing to have y'all on because, you know, a lot of times we think about technology and we think about relationships and we don't see how the two can correlate. And so with y'all's new app, the Connection app, this is kind of interesting because we can actually create some sort of unity and understand our relationships better with this app. Can you tell me more about how this creation even came to be?
Sure. You know, actually, both my parents passed away when I was quite young. And so one of the things that, from a young man's perspective, was I really saw that there was kind of some sadness in the world. Obviously, I was really sad and went through all that. But I noticed that people were kind of focused on the wrong things in life. That's not what makes you happy. When you lose someone close to you like that, you're reminded that all of the things, all of the activities that we do are really unimportant. And I think that planted the seed for me all those many years ago of really wanting to make a difference for that in the world, to really remind people that, you know, in the end, what you have makes no difference, but what you don't want to have is those regrets of not really having the relationships that you really want to have, not being who you want to be with your friends and your family, your kids, your partner. And so that's really the impetus of where the idea came from.
Yeah,
for me anyway.
And very much the same for me. Ashley, as a young child, I grew up as a single mother and, just went through experiences that actually taught me to value relationships. So from a very young age, I learned to see how important relationships are in our lives, and that relationships are really where the best growing and learning happen for all of us.
That's amazing. It's interesting, our backgrounds and how, depending on what we went through and what we've overcome in our life, it is really essential to helping people understand their life, their trajectory, and the cycles in their life. Let me ask you, why was it important for the both of you to really help people use technology to their advantage and benefit, and how did this influence your decision to really bring the Connection app into the world, knowing the stigma that some of these apps and online datings actually kind of have about them?
Well, for years, I've been observing how there's a breakdown in society with connection through my work, my coaching, as well, parenting. I have 2 teenage girls, and I've just been observing this breakdown. And, how I see it is that we are distracted. We are just so distracted that we are not being present and connecting with one another. So that was my inspiration to, help change this, because I see the breakdown, the mental health issues, the anxiety, the depression, all these symptoms that are coming from this breakdown in society around connection.
Yeah, and, people are on their phones, and that's not going to change. It's an incredible tool to help organize our lives.
Absolutely.
And, right now we have access to pretty much all the information we need. If we want to learn how to do something, it's at our fingertips. But what people really need, it's not about knowing more. It's not about reading another book or doing another course. It's really about taking that knowledge and implementing it, finding a way to put that knowledge into action. And so, when we look at this amazing tool that people have in their hands, that was the thought, well, how can we use that to, instead of distract us from what's important in our life, to actually use that tool to help us to focus on what's important. And so that was kind of the impetus, was, how do we put those two things together?
Yeah, and just really meeting people where they're at, right? People are on their devices, they're on their phones. We're meeting them where they're at. However, what's different about our technology is that when you're on our app, we're actually prompting you to take action and be face-to-face and, have a human experience, getting you into action to actually spend time with people, not staying on your phone.
Right.
So when you're using your app, let's say from a couple perspective, someone's, married, you're using the app, and I know that you can use the app. There's 2 different types. You can be on the app when you don't have to be with somebody. It can be working on yourself, or the flip-flop. Do both partners in that relationship use the app, and how does that work when they're connecting that way?
Well, it could go either way. You can have it that way you're working on it on your own. But the idea is that the app is encouraging habits that are proven to really connect people, to make people feel the experience of love. Now, of course, when you're with a partner, you love each other, you're committed, you have all that done. But that doesn't mean that you're experiencing love every day. And so the goal is, and the reality is that people are so busy. We're so busy and stressed out that oftentimes we forget to do those little things that actually make us feel the love of our partner, to make our partner feel our love. And, that's the couples version. But out in the world, whether it's your friends or your family, we're so focused on what's going on internally that sometimes we forget to actually see the people sitting across from us and have that conversation where you really feel that connection. So,
So how the Connection app is designed, Ashley, is that every day you receive your daily spark, which is a notification. And we do have reminders in place throughout the day. And that spark will be encouraging you to take action. So, for example, one of the 7 connection habits is acknowledging the positive. So your spark that day may be acknowledging the positive in a person. And so throughout the day, you will be focusing on acknowledging the positive in your partner, in the people that you work with, in your children, and so on.
That's interesting. I like that. Well, when we come back, we'll be talking more about that because I think folks want to know exactly how the app works, understand the app, and how they can use it, whether they are single or whether they're on their own or whether they want to use it with their partner. When we return, we'll be talking more with Rnold and Michelle on this app, and then more about connectivity as well. For more information on the show, go to ashleyburgess.com, Ashley, BERGES.com, and also don't forget the new video content up every single week on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, go to Ashley Burgess. Stay tuned because when we return, we're talking more about this new technology and how we can better our relationships. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's episode of Perspectives, we're talking to Rnold and Michelle, the creators of the Connection app. And this app is really changing our relationships. It's reconnecting us. It's awakening us to the situations and circumstances to better the relationships we have. Right before the break, Rnold and Michelle were talking about the concept of how, this type of app makes us aware of things. And I remember, Michelle, you were talking about the spark. Right, so every day you get like a Spark notification. Let's talk more about those Spark notifications. What does all that do?
One of the things that we want, even though information isn't enough to really change a result, the right information can make a powerful difference. And so part of what we want to do is in this habit building app is we want to give people the information that's going to make a difference in their relationships. So the Daily Spark is a nugget of inspiration or information that allows you to focus your efforts so that you can really experience that connection out in your world. So that's what the nugget of the Spark is. The research, there's so many great people out there doing great research about what makes a great relationship happen. How do you relate to people so that you experience more joy and satisfaction yourself? Mm-hmm. And so part of what this does is we pack that information into these sparks so that in these small bite-sized nuggets, you can take that away and into your life.
Yeah, and they just prompt us to take that action because knowing isn't enough. A lot of us know these things, but we're not actually practicing them. We're not putting them into action. So the app is designed to prompt you, remind you to do so. Mm. We've heard a lot of positive feedback from our users that they just find it so helpful having that reminder to express what they want to be expressing to their partners or to, people in their lives. It's a very helpful tool. Mm.
So let me ask you, how did y'all do? Because it would take a lot of research and knowledge of what makes a good relationship. What are the things you do? Because I know some folks, to be quite honest with you, that if they try to make an app like this, it would be really bad. It would be like order some pizza, buy a vacuum for your wife for Christmas. That's always a good thing. Pots and pans. They would make the worst choices, period. Seriously, it's nothing says love like a vacuum. Nothing says love like a vacuum. And it's not about buying stuff, too. A lot of people have this misconception because depending on the way we were raised, you have family dynamics where, okay, mom and dad showed me love when they bought me stuff because mom and dad didn't really know how to show me love. And so you have a lot of folks that don't know what love is. Perhaps maybe it's very conditional. Perhaps it's based on things that are outside of self. And so how did y'all do the research to figure out how to bring us together?
Oh, it's I love that question. It's the idea to say, hey, be more loving with your partner. Well, that's great advice, but how do you do that? Like, what does that actually mean? Be more loving.
Exactly.
So if someone's struggling, okay, I'm going to be loving, and they try and do that. Well, so what we did was what are the physiological response of love is measurable. You can put someone, an MRI, you can read their brains, you can see the blood happening. It's measurable in the body. And so the research that we did is what are the actions that have that research that show that has the same or similar physiological response? And so that was the curiosity piece. And I started with, what are the things that I do? What are the things that I see? What is the advice out there? And, but it actually, each of our connection habits had to pass what we call the triple S test. We had to personally believe in each habit and use it in our lives to create the relationships we want. We had to see social proof for us, so it had to be proven by self. By social, we had to see in our networks and the people that it's in the world, but it also had to have the science behind it. I personally was looking for what are the fMRI scans that show, what are the measurable results? And so each of the connection habits has each of those things, and that was the research we did. What are those things? So, for example, expressing gratitude to your partner, giving your full attention, or being really good at listening. You wouldn't think that these things perhaps have the research to back them up, but they're very simple actions, and yet we don't do them.
Wow. You're right. It's interesting when you really just stop and get mindful for a moment. And it can be really challenging because I know a lot of folks that have been listening to the show know my hours that I work, and I'm sure that y'all work extensive hours, and listeners as well. And you're leaving work, and it's been a 12 or 14-hour day, and your work day, and you come home, and you're exhausted, and I find that a lot of times there's a tendency, because of being a therapist, I found that a lot of times, a lot of my clients go home and they argue, or they kind of, just talk about how bad their day was or whatever it was, and it's not adding to the quality of anybody's life. And it seems like they're going through the motions when they actually are around one another. And then I find sometimes when they actually do have time, it's almost like they're fumbling to figure out what the right thing is to do.
You know what? It's so true, Ashley. And that's one of the reasons why it really comes down to your habits. The big challenge is when we're busy or stressed. The way our brains work is that we almost always default to what we've always done, or the easiest thing. And sometimes searching for the positive or trying to find what's going well, that is not your default. So unless you work that and made it a habit, you can come home and actually end up just falling into a routine that doesn't support the relationship you want. You talked about how people talking about, what's going wrong in their day. And that's really typical. And of course we want to talk with our partner about, our problems and our challenges. But if you forget to celebrate together, if you forget to share what was successful about your day, you really are missing a great opportunity. One of the connection habits is share a success and celebrate. And it's one of my favorite things to do with my wife when we're even just driving along in the car, and there's kind of that moment where you're not quite connected, but there's nothing wrong. I ask her, so what was successful about your day? And of course, that's not the thing that's on the top of her mind. Or if she asks if it's not the thing on the top of my mind. So we have to look for it. But when you do that, it instantly melts the moment. It warms it up. And then, when you share something successful, you just got that. Now you're connected and you can talk about whatever you need to do. And that's kind of the essence of what the connection habits are all about.
Yeah, it's a complete shift in the energy between the two of you. Because you go from looking at what's wrong to looking at what's right, right? And then it just increases that positive energy between the two of you. And it becomes a habit to do this. This is the whole thing with the Connection app, is that celebrating success then becomes a habit. The more you practice it, it actually becomes a habit that you learn to do that. And it's just creating the balance in your relationship. Because you're the person that you that you love and that you trust, that you have that safe space with, is the person that you are going to share your challenges with. But we have to remember to celebrate with that person as well.
Got to connect.
That's smart, because a lot of people find themselves in like kind of this dead-end relationship where it's not the relationship, it's just both people are still working on that same mental record. And, I find it very interesting to watch, and I know that, I work with it too. I've been married, it'll be 16 years in June, and occasionally you'll catch yourself going into these old habits of talking about what went down, or talking about some challenge, and it's just like, when are we going to actually get to that next level? And I think that's what gets most people, and most people don't ever deal with the issues in the current thing, and so they think, well, it's just a relationship, when in fact it's us going back to our old ways of thinking and not coming up with anything that's new.
Absolutely, Ashley.
It's very powerful stuff. I want to talk about the connection habits, and I know that, I'd like to kind of talk about that real quick before we go to break. Can you tell us more about the connection habits, and then we'll talk more about that on the flip-flop?
Sure. When it comes to habit formation, one of the things research says is that if you remove a step in the process, it really helps to kind of integrate that. If you have to think about it, then it creates a moment and it's gone. So with the connection habit, by removing that step from, I want to connect with my person or my friend, my partner, to this is what I need to do. That's the essence of what the habits are all about. And they're not earth shattering, giving your full attention, appreciating, make sure you're saying thank you, expressing gratitude for who people are and how they do things, really sharing success and celebrating, acknowledging what positive is happening, acts of service. These are things that you know how to do, but if you are looking for something to do, you miss the moment.
And touch with the intention of love.
Right.
Yeah, that one.
Powerful stuff, guys. When we return, we'll be talking more about this and Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we've been talking about the Connection app. We have Rnold and Michelle here that have actually created this app together, and it's really amazing because instead of pulling people apart, instead of distraction, it's creating attraction. And right before the break, we've been talking about the connection habits, what the connection habits are. And so now we actually have time to really get into this. Right before the break, Rnold and Michelle, y'all were talking about the connection habits and how some of this stuff, is things that we probably know, but some of it is distinct reminders, which I think in life, some of the most amazing things that are so profound are reminding us of the things at the core of what we need to know. Continue that conversation and let us know a little bit more about the connection habits and how these are really combined into the Connection app.
Well, practicing the daily connection habits actually have been proven to just bring to the forefront of your mind of what you are going to be focusing on for the day. So let's use the connection habit, touch with the intention of love. So if that is your daily spark for the day, to touch with the intention of love, and you receive that, throughout the day, you are going to be mindful of touching with the intention of love. And if you're doing the couples connection app, then you're going to be hugging your partner, maybe putting your hand on their shoulder, just aware of that touch. And I want to express, just elaborate on that a little bit, that human touch is one of our basic needs. And it is something that we are not doing enough in our lives. It's been proven that human touch keeps us well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so again, by using the Connection app, it will remind you and keep you focused to be practicing that throughout the day. And then over time, and it's, about 3 months, research proves that it's about 3 months to actually create a habit, it will become a habit. It just becomes a habit that you are hugging your partner, or, even in the workplace, if you are shaking a hand, making eye contact, if you're in a situation, a conversation with a friend that's having a tough time, just touching their arm with your hand. All of these things make a difference. They create that connection between two human beings that is just absolutely,
Critical.
Yeah, critical. That's the word.
Actually, in the app, there's an assessment. So the reason why there's 7 connection habits, some people find themselves really good at some of the habits. And then some of them, they might not do it all. One of the connection habits is being encouraging. And oftentimes people make the mistake of, they think making suggestions to people is actually being encouraging. But when you think about the top athletes in the world, like let's say Tom Brady, for example, how many coaches does he have? How many people does he have making suggestions to him? 1, maybe 2. But how many people does he have supporting him, cheering him on, saying you can do it? Well, millions of people. And yet in our lives, sometimes we feel like, we need to be the coach instead of the cheerleader. And it's one of those sneaky habits that when you make that shift, because a suggestion without permission is actually a subtle form of criticism. What it's saying at its core is, I actually don't trust you. I think you need my help. So if you can take this sort of, criticism is one of those things that actually really have a detrimental impact in a relationship. So if you can take that criticism and stop doing those behaviors and add in a bit more cheerleading, you will be amazed at the difference that will make in the quality of your connection.
And it's absolutely incredible, Ashley, the shift from that. Like when I say shift, I mean the shift of energy between you and your partner, or you and your friend, or you and, a colleague at work. It's just absolutely incredible. It changes everything.
It's interesting that you said that because, when I'm in sessions with folks, they'll tell me about, whatever's going on with their husband or their wife. And one of the things that I really bring up to people's attentions, which I don't really think they realize, is a lot of times they treat their spouse not as good as they treat their friends. And so what I mean by that is, so our friends can do no wrong. Our friends have carte blanche. When our friends do things that are crazy, okay, when our friends do things that we find impractical, when our friends do things that for the most part might be considered stupid, we, pat them on the back and be like, hey, it's okay, man, love you, bro, you're my pal, and we're going to be here forever together, and I love you, and we're going to continue. We've been together since we were 12, and we're going to know each other for the whole time. And it's like we can treat them so well, but then when our spouse does something, that we're like, golly, and instead of like, hey, it's okay, you're just like, you just want to, like you said, you want to be that, you did this wrong and you need to think about this. And it's like we start wearing that coach hat, or we start getting into the gray area of the parent hat, which all of a sudden the relationship starts twisting, and then you're wondering why the intimacy's falling apart, because now you're more like their mother or father than really a spouse.
Yes, that's exactly what happens.
And, and the thing about habits is they're unconscious. Like I just want to give everybody a break out there. Like this is not your fault. We just fall into these patterns. It's really kind of our biology. It's the way we're wired. We're so busy. We're so stressed. And then we react. We're noticing what's wrong and we want to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's our conditioning, right? What's been modeled to us and all those things as well. Yeah,
I mean, we're addicted to the stress response of always trying to fix things instead of really being in the moment with each other. And it really makes us sick. 6 out of 7 of the major causes of death are caused by stress. And so we need to, as individuals, and as a society, to actually find a way to impact that stress response, because we're actually addicted to it, that adrenaline, that cortisol, that charge, because it's making us sick. And one of the things that the connection habits do, this physiological response of love, is it actually takes us from our sympathetic nervous system to our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's where our bodies start to relax. We get the oxytocin and all the great chemicals that make us feel good in a healthy way. And so it's so important, if you are stressed, to take this action. When you take that moment to express something positive to another person, instantly you transform your own physiology from that stressed out response to that positive response. Now you'll probably go right back right after, but the more you get into that habit, the better you will be and the healthier you will be.
And it will become a habit over time. It will. A positive habit, a healthy habit.
That's interesting. You talk about the drama. You know, when you look at different demographics of people, and you look at, all of us as humans, and then you look demographically at race, color, creed, and all different things. And I meet with people of all creeds, of all races, of all colors on a constant basis. And it's interesting how different folks actually like drama more than others. And isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And then some demographics of people actually that's their thing, and they don't really realize it. And then and the TV is being made specifically for them. You see what I'm saying? And then they get into the reality shows, and then they see the relationship issues, and somebody's yelling at someone, and somebody's throwing a glass of champagne over someone's head, and you have this whole crazy dramatic thing. And some people are learning that response and bringing that into the relationship because they think that is creating intimacy when it's not.
No, it's actually doing the complete opposite.
Yeah.
It's getting in the way of your intimacy.
And Ashley, our biology is kind of against us in this because as we become like addicted to those behaviors, as soon as we start doing something differently, it actually feels wrong.
It does.
It feels uncomfortable because our body has memorized a certain a way of being, a certain set of habits. And when we do something different, our brain says, well, what are you doing? That's not what we do. I don't know what's going to happen if we do that. Stop what you're doing right now and go back to the way you've always done it.
And often boring. I find with people that are addicted to drama, is that they find that change really difficult because it's boring. To them, it seems boring. Like, that's just boring to not have the drama in their life because they're so used to it. So they miss that chaotic craziness that comes with it.
Yeah. And, but if you're going to change your habits, you have to live with that discomfort for a while. It's one of the reasons why in the app we kind of make it like a game. So if you want to change your habit, you gotta make it fun. I mean, life is short. Let's not make it so significant that we just have to, be heavy on ourselves and beat ourselves up. Oh, I did it wrong again. I did it the wrong way. I mean, you gotta find a way to lighten up. That's one of the reasons we give away prizes in the app, like vacations and dream dates and things like that, is so that as you're practicing these habits, you can make it a game. Yeah. Hey, for 30 days, let's try and do this. And hey, we might get a chance to win something or get some rewards.
That's awesome. We'll talk more about that right after the break. And Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time in 2 shakes.
You could be my luck. Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we've been talking about the Connection app, better way of connecting with your spouse or even yourself and to understand what's necessary and needed. Rnold and Michelle have been live in studio. And right before the break, we began to talk about the concept of how the Connection app actually has points and rewards. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Rnold and Michelle? Because I'm not really sure how all that works, and it sounds very fun.
Oh, absolutely. Well, research shows that one of the very best ways to create a new habit is simply to track your progress. The issue is, for me, is that's so boring. And so one of the ways we make it a little bit fun is that each quarter we give away a vacation for 2, and every month we give away a dream date. So as you're rating your practice, every time you do it, you earn an entry to win one of those prizes. If you do it 5 days in a row, you get an extra 5 entries. And if you do it the whole week, you get an extra 5. So you can earn up to 17 entries for these prizes every week. Now, as we grow, the prizes are going to grow and we're going to get bigger. But right now, that's what the prizes are. And that's one of the ways where you're like, as you work on those habits and connect with each other, you also get to actually get a chance to win. And in fact, our first prize winners are in Cancun right now at an all-inclusive. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we just set them off at the airport last week. We went and met them off. They were just so happy.
Wow, that's so cool. So you can win stuff, too. Everybody likes to win stuff.
Yeah, well, it just makes it more fun. And that's part of our research behind it, is that we wanted to make this fun and simple for people. Like Rnold was saying that, everyone is so busy. We do not need to feel like that it's work. This is another thing that I have to do, that I have to make time for. It's work. We have designed the Connection app to be fun and simple, and just really create that enthusiasm around doing it, that you're actually excited to practice the connection habits.
That is awesome. I know that y'all recently launched a solo version of the Connection app for those who are working on their own self-development, which is important to help us open our own hearts, for eventually to find that significant other if that's what we're looking for. But one of the things is a lot of times we never really connect with ourselves, and that's how we all connected initially, is how important it is to have that self-development, to have that understanding. Could you tell us more about the Connection app Solo and what that does for folks that might be interested in that?
Yes. So what inspired us to develop the Connection app Solo is that we both fully believe that the most important relationship that you ever have is with yourself. That everything starts with self. So the Connection app Solo, which is the Connection app, is designed for people to work on individual challenges, but as well, this app will work very well in the workplace. So, it just really helps in all areas of your life, relationships in all areas. So you could choose to just do it individually. You could choose to practice it with friends, with colleagues, and it can actually lead into your romantic relationships as well. But it's just more focused on self.
Yeah.
And developing self-awareness.
Yeah, and when we originally launched it for couples, we had so many people say to us, "Oh, this sounds great. Connecting with people, it's so important to me. What do you have one for people who aren't in relationships?" And we heard that over and over again. And we heard people say, "Hey, this is really cool. I'd love to have this at the office. Like, really, let's connect as a team, as a team building. Is there something for that?" And so we really saw, the feedback we got from people was that we really saw it was bigger than just for couples. That the need for connecting wasn't just in your romantic relationships, that people are lonely.
Oh, it's right across the board. The need for connection is everywhere.
I agree with you too, and I think that's how we all three connected in the beginning. Is I say this over and over again: the most important relationship is with yourself. You come in this world on your own, and you leave on your own, and there's a reason for that. And a lot of people don't realize the impact of what that means, and it really means until you get right with yourself, you're not going to be able to get right with anybody else. If you can't unconditionally love yourself, you don't even know how to do that for other people, much less you. So this is very interesting. How would you be able to download the Connection app? Because I know that there's some folks that are listening to the show right now, and they're like, I really want to download that. How do you do that? Do you go to Apple or where? How do you go to find that?
Yeah, go to the connectionapp.com. You can go there. Both the links for Google Play and the App Store with Apple. So, or your favorite app store. Whatever way you want to, but it's there available for you.
And what does it look like? What is a little, when they're looking at the apps and they're seeing them, is it a puzzle piece? What does it look like, your app picture?
That's right, yeah. A little puzzle piece with a heart in the middle. And the idea is that we're solving the puzzle of human connection, of really connecting with what is great and what is joyful about life.
And what is y'all's website for people that want to learn more and go there to just download it as well?
Yeah.
theconnectionapp.com.
Well, that's easy. That's easy. And y'all are also on Facebook at The Connection app, on Instagram, The Connection app as well. And I find this very interesting, and I really appreciate y'all coming on, and I hope that y'all can come back on Live Your True Life Perspectives.
Oh, we'd love that.
Oh, we'd be honored.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to using the app myself, and then doing another show with me asking you questions about me going through the app.
Very good. Well, it's been a real pleasure, Ashley. The work you're doing in the world just makes such a powerful difference for everyone. I just really want to acknowledge you for the amazing amount of effort you make to make people's lives better. People like you really make a profound difference for our society, and I just think that I'm just such a big fan of what you're up to.
Oh, and me as well, Ashley. Your commitment is just unbelievable. You are such an inspiration.
I really enjoyed having y'all on, Rnold and Michelle. Amazing. And, the Connection app to me sounds, well, it just sounds like it makes sense, right? It makes sense because in the fast world we're in, things are moving so fast. Many of us are overwhelmed with the responsibilities at work, challenges at home. If you're raising a family, you got the kids in school and, the son's in ball practice, daughter's at ballet class or something all the time. And, it can just be overwhelming to try to organize all that stuff, much less paying attention to what's supposed to be the most important relationship, your marriage, your spouse, but also the other important relationship with you. Getting to know ourselves. Like I say, we come in this world on our own and we leave on our own, and that means that the most important relationship that we have is with ourselves, and that's really important. Go get the Connection app. Go to theconnectionapp.com. Check it out, download it, get it on your phone, and be able to use this to connect and reconnect with your significant other as well as yourself. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.